He runs one of India's most valuable consumer companies. I have with me the Managing Director and CEO of Asian Paints, KBS Anand. Mr. Anand, welcome to Davos. Thank you very much for joining us on CNBC TV 18.
Thank you, my pleasure.
All right, let me start first by asking you for your growth outlook for across the world and specifically, of course, for India, which is the key market for Asian Paints. What are you picking up 2015 will bring?
Across the world, I think you'll have to wait for the conference to get over.
Okay.
But from what I learn, I think the US is doing well. UK, okay. Europe is in trouble.
Yes.
Latin America is in trouble, except for maybe Mexico. In Asia, I think China slowed down.
Yes. We just saw the latest growth numbers from there.
But it's probably still faster than India.
Right.
but it slowed down, and that's helped the rest of the world because commodity prices have crashed.
Yes. I can see the smile on your face as you say that.
Yeah, why not? When you cry when it's otherwise, so
yeah, I know. Why not?
You get an occasion to smile, why not? So that's helped us. And I think in Asia, probably India, Indonesia are probably the slightly better countries. But
both countries that you're well positioned in, more India than Indonesia, but that too represents a geographical diversification for you.
Yeah, but you're just getting into Indonesia.
Sure.
We haven't set up a plant, we haven't started business, we are still in the process of setting up companies, so it'll take a little time.
Both countries which have new governments right now and new governments that have a lot of hopes pinned on them. But before I get to that, let me ask you what you make of the beneficial impact of dramatically lower crude prices in the last 6 months. Can you quantify it for us to some extent, at least the impact on Asian Paints?
I think the impact on Asian Paints, primemost is from the impact on the Indian economy. The fall in crude prices and commodity prices will definitely increase the earning power of companies and people across the country, and hopefully that should have a GDP multiplier effect. So when the economy grows faster, I think all consumer companies will do better, demand will increase, and as a result we should do better. On the other side, yes, commodity prices, especially crude related, coming down definitely helps our bottom line.
Yes.
And profitability improves. But in a competitive scenario in the long run, you got to probably hand over some of it to the consumers.
All right, so you've set up my next 3 questions. Let me start first with top line. What is the year 2015 or FY16, however you choose to pick it, looking like in terms of consumer demand in India, sir?
Everybody is hoping for Achhe Din, because with the government moving, everybody is optimistic, and Indians are probably the most optimistic people in the world.
So does it look like Achhe Din will come your way in 2015, or are you gauging that consumer demand is a little bit more tepid than anticipated?
It's going to take time for any action by the government to translate down to the ground level, but the stock markets definitely indicate that consumer demand is going up.
Yes, but you have a ear closer to the ground than the stock market does.
I'm in a quiet period, so...
Yeah, I'm not asking you for a quarterly number. I'm not even asking you to quantify the specific growth number for me. But give me a sense, is this year, either the calendar year or FY16, going to look like a big improvement in top line versus, the year that's just gone by?
It should show an improvement in the top line if the government carries out half the things they say they are going to.
Single digit improvement, double digit improvement?
You're talking for...
top line growth.
We have been having double digit growth for the last decade and a half.
So I know, I'm just reconfirming what you mean.
So we had double digit last year too, so I don't understand.
So what I mean is, will growth be dramatically better, or will it be just incrementally better?
I think it'll take time to be dramatically better.
So
it's
incrementally better in 2015, the calendar year, and equally in FY16, so to speak, right sir? Yeah.
2015 may be similar to 2014. I mean, you're talking of the financial year.
2015 financial year, we're in the last quarter now,
so
right?
It's probably you see the first half yearly results,
they're
very similar to what was there the previous year, so it's more or less on similar lines.
Okay.
The following year we expect should be better.
Okay, should be better, but incrementally better as of now, not transformationally better.
I don't mind it being transformationally better.
No, the reason is because I'm trying to gauge what this crude price cut the impact will be on consumers, and therefore what kind of additional growth companies like yours are expecting. I think that's what people are trying to understand. Some of it will go towards bottom line or profitability. Some of it you may pass on to consumers. So how will it work?
See, paint, while I'm not saying it is not price sensitive, it is price sensitive, and it's a competitive scenario. One company will reduce prices, all will reduce prices, so that will happen automatically. But paint demand is related to construction, related to renovation of homes, related to mood of consumers, etc. So it depends to a great extent on how the economy does, how people feel their future is, and the demand translates in that manner.
You know, in the years FY09 to FY14, and I was reading a research report in anticipation of this interview, you moved your profitability, your margin up by almost 300 to 400 basis points, this even at a time when inflation posed a big problem. Now that seems to be a less of a problem. We may have seen the beginning of a rate down cycle, so to speak, given the RBI's recent actions. You've got this big cut in crude prices that is overwhelming all of this. So I'm trying to gauge whether profitability, that is your margins, will grow by substantially more in the next 5 years to come.
Competition won't allow that.
No?
Competition won't allow that. We are in a fairly competitive scenario. All the leading paint companies of the world are there in India. We are in a competitive scenario. So margins may increase a bit, but I don't think they really shoot up or down. Anyway, we play for a more consistent long-term scenario.
Sure.
We are really looking at long-term growths over the next decade or so. So we aren't very worried about a 1 year shoot up or shoot down.
No, I'm wondering whether the next 5 years, you know, if the last 5 years you did about 300 to 400 basis points, the next 5 years you could in fact double or improve substantially on that margin improvement.
You're talking as if, you know, that golden egg keeps growing bigger inside.
I'm asking. My job is to ask to try and get a sense of what it will be like.
It's damn tough. I would like to make as much profit as possible, but I'd like to grow fastest too. So it's always a combination of both.
Okay. You spoke of being able to pass on some of the benefit of a lower crude price to customers. I don't think you've taken a price cut as yet from what I've sort of checked. But tell me if you have, and whether we can see price cuts through the course of the next few months. So if you can give me details on how much your raw material cost has come down by and how much you can pass on to consumers.
I can't.
Okay. Whatever detail to that end you could share with us, that would be helpful.
Crude prices have come down, but you got to understand that in addition to the direct, you can say turpentine, etc., that's bought from the petroleum companies, most of the other products are imported from abroad, and there tends to be a 3-month pipeline of raw materials as well as a pipeline of finished goods in the
So you're not already seeing the full impact of lower crude?
Yeah, the full impact of prices which have really dipped in November, December will come over towards the end of next quarter.
Towards the end of the next quarter, that's the first quarter of the next fiscal.
Towards the end of this quarter.
Okay, so by March is when you'll start seeing the full impact. But based on what you've already seen in terms of reduction, have you seen a reduction in raw material prices already?
We are seeing a reduction in raw material prices if you purchase them today. Okay. Now, whether anybody, we don't like to, you know, we are not such a product like gold that the price, depending on daily prices, demand is going to change.
Yeah.
So we don't like to increase and decrease prices on an ongoing basis. It sort of upsets the channel.
Fair enough.
We like to keep it consistent as far as possible. So as long as, when we finally see a consistency in a price trend, we make a change in prices, whether upward or downward.
So we will know if you are likely to pass on any of the benefits that you see through lower raw material prices to your consumers only, let's say, by about March, April, when you've sort of observed crude oil prices and raw material prices for a longer period. Have I understood that correctly?
Correct. Yeah, crude is a very small element of it. It's mainly raw material prices.
Sure.
Some of them are crude derivatives, but they are imported from abroad. So they are more dependent on the demand for these products worldwide. Thanks to the China slowdown, demand has abated a bit, and there is surplus capacity in the world. So a lot of raw material prices have actually fallen.
Can you give us a sense of by what the decrease is like, so we can extrapolate and try and understand what that would mean for your margins from here on?
The first people I will tell is my customers.
Alright, so we will only know in March or April, based on the longer, slightly more medium-term price trend in raw materials, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you're already seeing raw material prices come down, mostly because of excess supply and partly because of what's happened with crude oil prices.
Correct.
Right? If crude stays at this level, And if, as we are quite clear that Chinese growth is not going to pick up beyond where we saw it in 2014, in fact everybody's downscaled their growth expectations from China. So if this continues to be a year of tepid growth for China, 2015 and 2016, and raw material prices stay where they are, what kind of margin expansion will you see in the quarters to come? So I'm talking about the medium term, not the immediate short term. How much of that will you be able to pass on to customers?
I would like to, if you see an increase in demand coming across because of growth in economy, I would prefer to pass on probably a larger chunk of it to gain a larger share of business and translate it down. So it's dependent on the scenario in the Indian market and dependent on the total economic scenario we see to the extent, how much we pass it on. So it's...
Mr. Anand, you do realize, I have asked you about 10 questions, you've not given me a single number. Growth,
you're not going to get
line
numbers.
Growth, bottom line, price
I'm scared of the press.
Well, hardly, because you bested me in what I do as a daily job.
I'm
so
scared of the
not
press.
a single number. Okay, give me a sense of where you think you might end FY15 in terms of growth rates at least.
I don't think we give any forward...
No, not guidance. Based on what you've seen so far, where you think, what kind of double-digit growth rate in top line will you see for FY15?
You got our figures for the first 6 months. That's all I can say at this point of time. I really
and nothing
can't,
more than that?
Nothing more than that.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to say anything more than that.
So what you've told me is qualitatively the demand environment looks better. Across the country?
I don't think so. I think it's more or less on lines with the previous year.
Okay, for FY15.
For FY15.
And FY16 will be incrementally
everybody is
better.
anticipating or hoping that FY16 will see an impact of both lower commodity prices as well as actions by the government in terms of investment in infrastructure and other areas, which should spur demand all across the economy.
So the industry, which is the paint industry, apparently has grown at a compounded 18% rate over the last few years. You're an industry beating company. I'm just trying to understand what FY16 will bring. I'm not even limiting you to FY15. FY16 will be substantially better than that.
You need to do little more research. The last 2-3 years haven't been 18% growth for the industry. They've been closer to 12-13% growth for the industry.
Yeah, so I'm talking about the last 5 years.
Probably not a CAGR of 18, but before the last 2-3 years, yes, it was 18, between 16 and 18. Last 2-3 years, it has been lower.
So will you come back to 18?
I hope so. We would like to.
By when?
Can you predict the price of crude next year? Can you predict the price of gold? I know gold is closer to women's hearts, but
I can't predict either. Okay.
So I am in the same scenario.
Okay, what is the next year looking like in terms of, let's say, additional capital expenditure? You've been investing in your Rohtak facility, if I've understood correctly.
Yeah,
Indonesia is the next outpost, so to speak. Can you talk us through some more capex plans for the next few years?
So we have announced expansion. Both Rohtak expansion is underway. Where we're expanding the capacity from 200,000 tons per annum to 400,000 tons per annum. We are also setting up a plant in Indonesia, but Indonesia is a little early to say because we still don't have the requisite land, sanctions, etc. from the Indonesian government. So the size of the plant and the extent of the capacity would be difficult to assess. But we'd like to put up a capacity for the long run rather than, for the immediate year, so to speak.
Okay, so anything else on the agenda besides these two that you've already articulated before?
There's been a lot in the press. We are looking at sites for another factory, but we haven't yet got any allocation of land from any government yet.
Okay.
So we are not in a position to really say what is the capacity, etc., because it depends on the size of the land we get.
Where specifically are you looking?
We are looking at the southern states.
In the southern states, how big will the capacity be?
Depends on the land we get.
Okay, but if you got the land that you needed, what is the capacity that you're targeting?
We'll determine that once we come closer to the exact
So this
position.
will show up in FY16-17 capex if you get the land.
No, it will take a little longer because we are classified as I would say, not so correctly, as a red category industry. So we require Ministry of Environment clearance, which takes almost a year.
Okay.
So that whole process of really getting around to starting construction and putting in the capex will be 2-3 years down the line.
How much would you be earmarking for the capex of such a facility when it happens?
Depends on the size of the plant. No?
Yeah, but I mean, if you got the amount of land you needed, then
No conjectures.
no conjecture. Okay. Inorganic growth,
All our growth is in
acquisitions.
within India. I don't think Competition Commission will allow us to do acquisitions very easily in the paint space.
You seem to have explored that option already.
No.
You're just saying this based on their rules.
I mean,
your market
as you're the market leader in most areas, unless you're in a particular niche,
Sure.
yeah, you really won't get. I don't think you'll get their permission very easily.
Okay.
In other categories, we may look at acquisitions in home improvement, etc. Because we have made 2 acquisitions in the home improvement space, kitchens and faucets. We might look at something, but we are in no hurry.
Mid-sized acquisitions?
Possibly.
Mid-sized
See,
acquisitions.
acquisitions are not. You can't determine the size and scope.
How much money do you feel comfortable spending in growing those businesses?
We have large ambitions, so we have fairly sizable ambitions of growing them. So we have acquired 2 small companies relatively, yes, at the moment, simply because that was what was easily available more than anything else.
Okay.
In the Indian space, the larger or mid-sized companies aren't that easily available, frankly speaking.
But if you got an opportunity, you'd be
We'll
looking
look at it.
them.
We'll definitely look at it. If the price is right, we'll look at it.
So that's where your M&A action will be focused on, not the
in
traditional
India,
paints business.
In India, yes.
Yeah. Outside India, would you be looking for M&A opportunity to expand your paints business?
Yes, we are currently, we have informed the stock exchange a few months back. We have come into an agreement with an Ethiopian company to acquire a company there.
Yes.
We are also looking at other targets elsewhere, but
Elsewhere would be?
in the emerging markets.
So would that be Africa, Southeast Asia, some countries, Southeast Asia, Latin America?
See, we're looking at all those countries. As and when an acquisition comes, we'll definitely inform you.
So you're looking at emerging market acquisitions for the paints business?
Yes.
And you're looking at domestic acquisitions for your home improvement business.
Correct.
Is that right?
Right.
Mr. Anand, thank you very much. You're a courageous man. You're standing outside without a winter coat, and you have done this entire interview without a single number. Congratulations,
Thank
sir,
you
for
very
your
much.
time.
Thank you for trying.
Thank you. Thanks very much, sir.